few months ago, I made a video talking about how the in-season tournament was a bad idea, and I can confidently say that I was wrong. I'll be the bigger person here, and I would like to formally apologize to Adam Silver and the NBA. My main arguments why the idea wouldn't pan out came down to the fact that I didn't think players would care about the tournament, and that changing the whole NBA schedule for the tournament wouldn't work. Both of my reasonings became obsolete as we have seen many star players praise the tournament, and if anything, the changing in the schedule has made regular season basketball matter at least somewhat. Let's start with the fact that I didn't think players would care about this tournament because it was only for $500,000 for the winners, which is obviously a lot, but I didn't think multi-millionaires cared about that. Coaches and players, including Steve Kerr, Draymond Green, Nick Nurse, Trae Young, SGA, the list goes on, have all praised the in-season tournament so far this year, saying that it's made the whole league a little more competitive during the regular season, especially during the beginning of the year. Now let's be honest, before this season, the average NBA fan watches their favorite team's first few games, maybe some other games on primetime, but after opening week to All-Star break, who really watches all of their team's games? There's no reason to, because we really start to tune in after the All-Star break, after the NFL and other sports are over, and teams are vying for playoff spots, and the NBA knows this. This is why they place the tournament now, when the viewership is usually the lowest. I made sure to tune into the first tournament games, and then I started to watch more and found myself watching the most regular season games I have in years because it was exciting to watch teams actually try to win games and not just give up if they were down at halftime. The thing about the tournament is that it hasn't even really started yet. The first games were just to determine who would make it past the group stage. The way the tournament is now, we have 8 teams left with some surprises, and the trophy is up for grabs, and anyone can take it. Usually when we get to a playoff type environment, we have a good idea on who could win the series, but these aren't series. It's just one game, and whoever shows up and could win the next 3 games could walk away with a trophy and a bag. Let's go over how all of the teams in the tournament left could win the NBA in-season tournament in its inaugural season. First, let's start off with the number 1 seed in the West, the Lakers. The Lakers this offseason retooled, and they have a good roster built with Anthony Davis and LeBron, a lot of good role players there. I think the main way that they win this tournament is they go into it with their depth, and the depth players and the role players go through and have some pretty good games, but it really falls down to Anthony Davis and LeBron. If we see LeBron go into playoff mode like we've seen before in this in-season tournament, I think they could have a very good case on winning, especially with that depth, and if Anthony Davis plays like a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, it'll be very hard for teams to score on them. Now the number 2 seed in the West, the Kings. The Kings have had a surprising good start to their season. I thought they would be pretty good, but for them to be the 2 seed in the in-season tournament does surprise me a little bit. The main way that they win this tournament is De'Aaron Fox needs to continue to ball out. At this point, he's averaging 30 points, 6 assists, a steal and a half, 5 rebounds, which is fantastic, and they also need Sabonis to play well too. He's averaging about 18 and 12. If both of these players can stay on, I think they can go through the West and the East. De'Aaron Fox, one of the best clutch players in the NBA as we know, especially after last season, so that is definitely one thing to watch out for. If we're in some close games, I'm probably going to take De'Aaron Fox as the last guy to take a shot over almost anyone in the NBA at this point. The number 3 seed, the Pelicans. If the Pelicans can maintain their offensive output that they have had, they can win this tournament. Zion is averaging 23.5. Brandon Ingram is averaging 23.5. CJ McCollum is averaging 21. Jonas Valanciunas is averaging 14. Jordan Hawkins, 13 points. Herb Jones, 12 points. This team, their offense overall has been fantastic to start the season, and this team with Zion Williamson finally healthy proves that they're one of the best teams in the West, and the team that they've built around them throughout the past few years with Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum, and even younger guys coming in now like Jordan Hawkins, Matt Ryan, Herb Jones, making improvements every single year. This team could easily come out if they can continue that offensive output. Now last, but certainly not least in the West is the 4 seed, the Phoenix Suns. The way they win this tournament is that KD and Devin Booker take over like we have seen. Bradley Beal was supposed to be a third big star for them this year, and I still think he could be, but with his injury lingering throughout this whole season so far, I doubt that they'll have him in the in-season tournament, though he could come back. But the way they win this, KD and Devin Booker both put up 30 points a game, which they're pretty close to doing this year. KD with 31 and Devin Booker with 28. The rest of this team can play well, and they'll be able to improve and continue to win games with guys like Eric Gordon, Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen all contributing, but it really comes down to KD and Devin Booker. If they want to take over, which they can at any moment, this Suns team could easily win this whole tournament. Now going to the opposite side, the number 1 seed, the Bucks. The way the Bucks win is their depth, which may seem a little bit surprising since they have Giannis and Dame, but I expect both of those guys to play well. We have seen some off nights from both of them so far, maybe still trying to figure out how to work together, but this is one of the best built teams in the NBA, and especially going up against a team like Boston, which I would expect them to go up against each other in this in-season tournament if both of those teams make it to the East semifinals. Depth is going to be the biggest reason why the Bucks could beat the Celtics, just because they have more depth. Now the number 2 seed in the East, the Pacers. The way that the Pacers could win this is to put up 150 points a night, which does seem like a tall task, but the Pacers have been putting up historic numbers throughout the start of this season offensively, one of the best offensive teams of all time to this point. Tyrese Halliburton, 25 and 12. If you guys haven't yet watched my video about him, he has been fantastic this season. The way that they win is they have the best offense in the NBA. They just need to score more points than they let up, which obviously every team tries to do that, but this Pacers team has arguably the worst defense in the NBA and the best offense in the NBA. So you just need to outscore your opponents, and in a tournament like this, a lot of these teams can score a lot of points, but the Pacers could be a sneaky underdog team just because their offense is so good. The only problem for the Pacers is that they're going to run into the Celtics in the first round of this tournament. I think the main reason why the Celtics could win this tournament is because of Kristaps Porzingis. I think he's the biggest X factor for this team. We have seen Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both have off nights before, especially in playoff settings like last year. So if one of those guys is off, Kristaps Porzingis needs to step in that role and maybe be the second star for a night. If both of those guys are on and Porzingis is also on, then I think this team is pretty much unstoppable, though they may not have the depth of a team like the Lakers or like the Bucks. If those 3 stars are on, it is going to be almost impossible to stop them because they can all put up 30 plus points. Now finally, the 4th seed in the East, the Knicks. The way that the Knicks win this tournament, though I think they have one of the longest shots, is they need to play their brand of basketball. If you look at this team, guys like Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle may not be superstar level players. They're star level players, but both of these guys aren't the superstars like we see on other teams like Boston or Milwaukee or Phoenix. But the way that this Knicks team play, all together, everyone touches the ball, they have fantastic rotations, and they play as a complete unit. It's something that we really don't see in the NBA a lot, especially now. Every single person on this team has a role for this team, and that's why they've been successful. They don't have the superstar level like the other teams like I mentioned, but everyone does their job, and when everyone does their job and fills their role, they are playing a winning brand of basketball, and that's how they get through. They're going to go up against teams that maybe their stars are on one night or off one night. They need to capitalize and have their guys like Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, and RJ Barrett, and even guys like Emmanuel Quickley and Dante DiVincenzo. Their guard rotations need to continue to fire, and the Knicks have an outside shot, but if they play their brand of basketball, they could easily be looking at a potential berth in the championship. Now, with all that being said, I gave you a reason why every single team could win. Who is my prediction to win this tournament? If you look at all these teams like the Suns, the Lakers, the Celtics, they're all teams that have some good stars, but I think there's one team that I look at that may want this a little more than the other teams, and I think that's the Celtics. The Celtics haven't been able to win a finals throughout the past few years, though they have been close ever since Jason Tatum got there. They have been in the Eastern Conference or the NBA Finals, and they haven't got over that hump. I think this Celtics team is going to be hungry to win this tournament, to prove to everyone that they can be winners, though it's not a real NBA championship. I'm sure people will call this a Mickey Mouse championship, but I still think that it's important for this team that if they can go out here and win and prove that they can be a winning team, that maybe some people will look at them a little differently, and it may not matter too much in the end, but it'll still look good on their resume as they continue to play for the rest of the season. And I do think if Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Porzingis all play very well, it is going to be almost impossible to stop them. And let me know down below who you guys think is going to win the tournament. I think pretty much any team has a case. Like I said before, you just have to win one game each round. So it's not a series. If you're good on one night, and then you're good on the next night, and then you're good on the next night, then you have a championship. So some teams may get lucky, or we could see the favorite win every matchup. Let me know down below who you think is going to win, and I'll see you in the next one.